Hi everyone, this is Bev. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, glad to have you. I am an artist and I love giving gifts to my friends, but I also love selling my art, which does help me with some extra spending money. It's always nice to have that. But when it comes to making gifts for people that I meet along the way, because as an RVer, I meet a lot of people and I make new friends, and I like to give them a little bit of myself. Now, making a whole journal for someone takes a long time. I'm still not done with this one. But what if I wanted to make a little gift? Well, out of one page. The first thing I need to do is take a photo of it, and then I would load it into my word processing program that I use, and I'll link it below. It's a free program. And then I make sure that I leave enough space for the back of the little booklet so that I don't have to attach a back. By doing this, I have the entire little cover for my book. I have been making all of my little gift books, my little tiny journals, about 3 inches by 4 inches. These two here are made by taking a photo of 2 of my collages and then using them as these little covers. Notice that the inside of the cover has another pattern, and that's one of my patterns that I've made out of a lace tablecloth. I took a photo and made it into a background page, and I'm going to have this for free in my Ko-fi shop for the rest of the month of January. Now, I like to have the inside have that pattern. When I first started experimenting with these, I didn't add anything to the inside, and then I thought, well, yeah, I need to do that. Here you can see where I fold it over, and I'm just going to trim off that little bit of white after I fold it so that the back is automatically the same size as the front. Easy. I liked making them all the same size. Sometimes I had to crop. If you'll notice, the little booklet doesn't have as much space on the right of my bluebird. I love this collage, and I'm thankful that I found it put away in my storage room that I have at my house, because I'm in the RV. I can't have everything with me. So I have a locked room at my house where I have things saved. So I'm glad I found that one. This is for the envelope. It needs to be, for my book, 8 inches by 8 inches. Didn't want to change the dimensions by squishing it together and changing the shape of everything. I wanted to just take it the way it is, and if that makes sense, I then just cut it down to 8 by 8. Now I'm using an envelope maker that I have, and if you have this, then you understand how I'm working it. And I'm not going to go into detail about this, because if you don't have one, then you won't be interested in what I'm doing. And if you do have one, you already know how to do this. So it's just punching and scoring. The only thing I'd like to say is, if you have one of these or decide to purchase one, it would have been better for me to have it face down with the inside of the envelope paper up. Here's why. That's how it's scored. Here I'm having to fold them the way it's scored, the easiest way, and then turn it over and change the direction of the way I'm folding it, which was just an extra step. If I had remembered to put it face down, I wouldn't have had to do that, but it's not really a big deal. So isn't that cute? So it makes the envelope a little tiny bit bigger than the card, or I should say the little book. Now you can do this with all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be a piece of artwork. You could go around your house and find something that you just love as part of your decor and use that. Take a picture, or a picture of someone that you love, or a time you spent together with someone, or say you make beautiful quilts. You could do a photo of a quilt that you made. You can use old cards. The list is virtually endless of the kind of pictures you could use. Now I'm cutting the paper, and this is just some coffee dyed paper that I actually made a couple of years ago by just using instant coffee and spraying on paper and letting it dry. It doesn't have to be a big process. Just take a little spray bottle, put some really strong instant coffee in it, and spray away. I've even done it with regular coffee. And then if you overlap them sometimes on the surface where you're having them dry, you can get some neat marks on the paper. Here, I'm using a piece of paper that I've printed on both sides, and I'm using that to make some of the pages. The little books only have 5 pieces of 8x3 paper, which works out to 20 pages. So these little journals or little notebooks have 20 pages. This is that one there is a piece of paper that was actually for making stationery out of 8.5 by 11 paper. And I just coffee dyed it. Here, after I fold them, where they fold together, I cut them to be the same length, because when you put them inside each other, they're a little bit off from each other. Now, my paper trimmer did fine cutting through those, but if you don't want to do that, you could, of course, just cut it with some scissors. And if it's a little bit off, you can use a nail file. That my husband even loves these for sanding. He told me to go ahead and buy some. You can get them on Amazon. I think they come in you can get 35 of them or 24 for $35. I mean, it's crazy. I paid $1 for each of them in a beauty supply store years ago, and they're washable, and I could go on. I love them so much. That's what I used. And here I'm just using some of that art glitter glue. Someone had asked me, what kind of glue is that? It's art glitter glue, and you can get it on Amazon, and it comes with a refill bottle sometimes. Terrific glue. I have to apologize. My printer ran out of yellow ink, and I thought, oh my goodness, how can I use these pictures? And I thought, well, you guys won't mind. You understand. Now here I have 2 photos of each of the one with the bird. That's a card. And then the picture at the top is Carlene and me again with our ribbons. I'm cutting there to use these 2 for the cards. Notice I've left paper. Now these are on cardstock. I printed them on cardstock, and I'm just trimming them down with that extra white for their journal. Notice that the bird one will fold from the top down, not from the side. Remember, when you print out your pictures, to make sure there's enough space. Even just print out a black and white one on paper, just so that you don't waste your cardstock and your color ink, because believe me, I've done that. These are also backed with another one of my designs. These were my, I can't remember, retro paper, something like that. That's how that one folds, just like the other ones we've made, but this one folds from the top down. So it makes a difference when you measure your paper out and to fold into your little book. It just takes a little bit of extra thinking. Once you have it down, it's not a big deal. And this was a little rough cut, so I just sanded the edge. I love sanding, so finishing an edge for me with sanding is just part of distressing. I love to distress. I love to tear. I love to ink and all those things that go along with vintage. Out of the second picture for each of these cards, we are going to cut out something to make another layer that'll give it a little pop, a little dimension. And in this card, I'm cutting out the 2 ribbons that we are holding. We've got the same ribbon at the festival. We thought that was pretty funny. We get together and do so much, and we both got the same ribbon that year. It was just great. So I'm so glad we have this picture. I've used this picture many times in videos. And if I haven't told you before, Carlene and I get together when I'm in the area once a week, maybe more if we can. Inking the edges because I don't like the white showing. That's been cut out for both of the ribbons. Now I'm going to put some dimensionals on the backs of the ribbons. Now the dimensionals I have are very tiny, which is helpful. I don't want them to be too thick. So, if you have dimensional tape that's, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch thick, that might be too much, unless you're happy with that. This is about a 1/16 of an inch, I think. And I had these teeny tiny squares. And then those, I even cut in half for the bottom of my ribbons. Now, if you don't have scissors that are non-stick, this may leave a little stuff on your scissors, but you can easily get it off with mineral spirits or Goo Gone or something like that. But remember to clean them off if they're sticky, because you'll be sad later when you go to use them and they're all gunked up. So here I'm taking all the little pieces off of the back of the double-sided dimensionals, and I'm just pressing those into place on the card. These cards, these journals, they're not cards, although you could just take your cards and use them and make them into journals, but I kind of like the idea of them all being the same size. And then I have them to give as little gifts of what I do. Now this one I would just either keep or give to Carlene. Probably give to Carlene. Except that the ink is not really the best on these. We look very pink because I ran out of yellow. So I'm really just doing this to give you an idea of what to do. I'm just finishing up that second ribbon, and you can see how I put those little, and these dimensionals, they would peel right back off if I needed to move them. They're pretty friendly, user friendly, pretty forgiving when you first put them on, but then after a while they're not going to fall off. Again, I went and got a pokey tool after a while. I do have nails in this video. Sometimes that pokey tool is helpful. And there we are, our two little ribbons. The focal point of the picture. It could have been our faces, but I didn't want to have our faces sticking out. But I did use our faces on the back of the journal. Same thing, putting the dimensionals on the back. And then I just peel those backs off and put the bird on the card. Now the whole bird is on the card, so I didn't have any extra pictures to put on the back. Now I could have printed out another one and punched out the face of the little chickadee, but instead I just punched out the name of the chickadee and the Latin name, and of course inked the edges and added it to the back of the little journal. Adorable. A couple of the little booklets I sewed on my sewing machine. You can see the stitches right down the middle, and the sewing machine had no problem doing it, but it wasn't my favorite way of doing it. I'm going to show you how I did sew with the pamphlet stitch on a couple of them. The pamphlet stitch just makes it feel more like a journal to me. This is not regular thread. This is more of a heavy-duty thread. It goes through my sewing machine just fine. But I didn't want to use something really thick because this is a tiny little journal. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to use this heavy-duty thread with a needle. And the needle has a pretty big eye, so it's very easy to thread. use about, I would say, probably 18 to 20 inches to do 2 books. So I cut it, threaded the needle, and intended on doing the 2 books. And I did do the 2 books with this one length of thread. Now, if you've done the pamphlet stitch on a journal, you're usually pretty particular about where you want those holes to be so everything is even. That's something that you usually have some kind of a template that you make to place your holes. But with this little book, you can pretty much just eyeball it. So I knotted the thread. I don't know if I've knotted it yet, but I do knot the thread and start right smack in the middle of the book on the fold, which is its little spine, so to speak, and leave some of the thread. And then holding all the pages together, of course you could clip them so that they don't move as much, but I didn't even do that. I guess I was being a little lazy. I mean, they did move a little bit on me and I had to straighten them out, but it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it's really quick work. Then just eyeball a hole up near the top, a little bit down from the top on the same fold. So you go back to the center of the book from the outside, from the top, then all the way down to the bottom, about the same as the top, a little bit up from the bottom of the book. And no need to make holes ahead of time. It's such a tiny book. It's just really simple to do this. I think it was even easier than getting out my sewing machine and threading it and making a bobbin, threading the bobbin, and then, yeah, that was more work. I mean, I took more work to set it up than it did to sew the other 2 little books. Then you go back through the middle, through the same hole. When you get to the inside, you want to make sure that one thread is on one side of that thread that goes from the top to bottom, and one is on the other side because you're going to tie a knot around it. We'll leave some thread from the knot, and I think I do make that thread longer, and it's easy because it's such a small book. Just pull on it, and you can cut the needle free, save that for your other little book. And then I just tie a knot around that long thread from top to bottom. I tie a knot around the middle of it, just like we always do the pamphlet stitch. Kind of snug. And then I tie 3 knots. I don't know why I did 3. I don't know why. For some reason, it makes me feel like it's gonna stay better. And then you just cut those 2 little threads in the middle, about an inch and a half long. And if you wanted to, you could add something in the middle, like a little charm or a little button, whatever. You could do that. I decided not to. There we go. There's our little journal with the pamphlet stitch. I just think it's so much more journal-like with the pamphlet stitch than the machine stitching. Although if you love to machine stitch, you could zip through a few of these and no problem. Once your machine's set up and threaded and your bobbin's ready. So here's the 2 books, and here's the 2 envelopes. If you decided to send this to someone in the mail, you would have to put it into a bigger envelope and probably make sure that it probably hand canceled at the post office, because it's going to be a little thick. Or just take a chance and put it in an envelope and put a stamp on it.